Hey everyone, FallenTitanAndy here. Today I feel like talking about the previous jobs I've had, so let's jump into it. So we're starting off with my grandfather's fruit shop. Basically my grandfather ran a fruit shop not far from here, where I live, but yeah, I would basically have school, and I was about 13 at the time, so started working at a young age. And this was before legal age was increased to 15, I think, but 15 or 16, one of those two. So yeah, 13 years old, and I was offered to earn some experience working for my grandfather. So went with my dad and went into the shop and basically helped around, just stacking shelves, putting fruit and veg on the shelves, and also helping customers with boxes of fruit and veg that they bought. And yeah, it wasn't too bad, but then I started to see a bad attitude coming from my dad, and yeah, but I was working for my grandfather for about 5 years, and it was actually my dad who said to me, look, I don't really want you here anymore, I want you to get out there and start looking for actual work. So that's basically what I did. I said, alright, I'll start doing that. So when I left my grandfather's fruit shop, I was about 18 at the time. It took me about 2 years before I actually found my next job, which is at the Brisbane Domestic Airport. And I didn't really apply for this job. I was just basically taken from my job network provider. They said, hey, we've got this position available for you, we'd like you to come with us. They took us to the Brisbane Domestic Airport and dropped us off, and the supervisor was like, right, you're in the new batch? Awesome. I was like, huh? Alright. Okay. We got employment. Cool. So, and they were going over the description, and then all of a sudden they said, it's night shift. Here's where the fun begins. So, being a young boy, 20 years old, used to being up early in the morning, not being up late at night. Started at about 8:30 p.m. and worked until 5:36 the next morning. I do have stories about that. I think it was about 2 weeks in. Still not used to the late nights, and I don't know if you've seen actual cleaners or whatnot, but they have like what's called a vac pack. It's like a vacuum you strap onto your back and you carry it around and you vacuum carpets. I actually had that, and there's this area called the satellite. It's basically like a big round area with like a Concord connected to it, and I was right smack in the middle, I was vacuuming, and I was off in my own little world. I fell asleep. I'm not joking. I was literally standing there with the vacuum in hand, with it going, and I just went. The only thing that woke me up was my supervisor, who came along and saw me, and he's like, "Andy, are you alright? You fell asleep, are you okay?" And I was like, "Huh? What?" Oh. Make fun of me as much as you like, but it happened. Anyway, I was only there for 6 months, and what happened was I was moved into this area called the Qantas Club, and it's a very high profile task. It's like you have to get everything right because it's a business area, and on the night that I left, I was struggling. I was having problems here and there, and I started making mistakes, and then all of a sudden it hit me with a ton of bricks that I was feeling a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and then all of a sudden I just cracked under the pressure because of how many mistakes I was making and how many errors I was making, and just felt like I was falling behind and all this sort of stuff. So I went back to our staff room, boiling my eyes out, and I see my supervisor, and he did not make the case any better. He was like, "Oh, you poor baby." So I just grabbed my bag and walked. I did not deserve that. I was clearly under a lot of stress, and he should have seen that and should have taken care of it, but obviously he didn't. He just basically did not care. Then the next morning he calls me and he starts abusing me over the phone, being like, "You're a child, blah blah blah. If you do happen to come back, I'm going to abuse you," and stuff like that. And I said to him, "Well, if you're going to be like that, then stuff you. I'm not coming back." So I didn't. So after leaving the airport, I actually landed a job at an army base, still as a cleaner, and I did not mind it at all. Being allowed actual access to an army base and permitted to go around and clean in offices and whatnot, it felt kind of cool. Obviously I couldn't really touch a lot of stuff, especially paperwork and stuff like that, because it was mostly classified. So if you want to know certain things, I know nothing. No, seriously, there were some areas I couldn't. Well, I had access to them, but we were told you're going into a restricted area. They're going to have documents that are going to be classified, that a lot of people are not meant to know. So if you do happen to see anything, do not, under any circumstances, tell anyone. I was like, okay. You know, because it kind of makes sense. You never know, could tell Frank, and Frank could tell someone, and someone and so forth. Fucking Frank. Frank's make-believe, by the way, so if you're named Frank, I'm not picking on you. Leave me alone, okay? I'm just having fun. So yeah, after that, basically, I was there for a good year, and the reason I left was I was moved around to different sections, and the one section I was moved to, I was told how to do it. I was told I'm supposed to do it this way, and blah blah blah, and if you finish up early, you could sit down and have a bit of a break, and sure enough, that's what I did. The supervisor and area manager happened to come into the area at that time, and they were like, "What are you doing? You've got 3 hours. Are you done?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I basically told them what happened and how it was shown. And then all of a sudden the area manager was like, "Well, that's unacceptable. You're getting a written warning." But I'm not the one that was shown this way. I pretty much said to you, this is how I was shown how to do it, and you're saying it's supposed to be done the other way. If it was supposed to be done the other way, why didn't they show me it was supposed to be done that way? So I said to my supervisor, if he's going to be like that, then fuck it, I'm done. Handed in my access pass and walked. Because to be fair, it was unfair for the area manager to target me for something that wasn't my fault. You know, if he said, "Alright, I'll speak to the person that showed you what to do and all that," then I'd totally understand, and I would be like, next day in, do it properly, no problem. But this area manager was like, "Well, you're getting a written warning anyway." No, I ain't gonna work for that. Nope. So, after leaving the army base, it took me a few years to find another job, and I was like, you know what, I'll take up a course. So I decided to take up Cert 3 in hospitality, and then landed myself a job at Ribs and Rumps. It was basically a restaurant that was, well, correction, it was a bar and grill. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And surprisingly, I wasn't selected for employment the first time. I was basically told no, and then 2 days later they were like, "Oh yes, we do want you." I was like, okay, cool. And then they were like, "We'll take you on as a kitchen hand," because I didn't have much experience. I was like, that's fine, I can do that, no problems. And yeah, I started becoming a kitchen hand and was basically helping the restaurant open up, which it's been open for a while now. I think 13 years. I could be wrong. I don't know if it's still open or not, but if it is, hey, cool. And the head chef, he was amazing. He was definitely a guy I could vibe with and have a good chat with, and he is a good man. So I had nothing against him. It was just other people in the actual company that I kind of had problems with, and I don't understand why. Not going to name people, of course, but there was one that constantly abused me and treated me like crap, and I don't understand why. And I found out that they had a bit of a crap life, and I'm like, well, if they're having a crap life, don't take it out on me, you know? But if I said that sort of stuff, I'd be like, oh, well, fine. So, yeah, we eventually got to a point where I was starting to get frustrated as being a kitchen hand, and I was like, am I going to be moved on to something else and do something else? But they were like back and forth a lot, being like, yeah, we're going to get you to start doing pre-cooks and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, oh no, you're just going to be doing prep. Okay. And then I started having financial problems and got myself a car, which was my financial problems. And I was getting stressed a lot, trying to balance money and all this sort of stuff, and I couldn't really do it. Eventually it started to affect my sleep and other stuff like that. So my mentality was starting to go. And then I started to notice on the roster that my hours were dropping, and I was like, the hell. Eventually I saw my roster as just 2 days, and they said, this is going to be your roster for the next few weeks. You're going to be on for 2 days and that's it. Right. Okay. Not happy. Because I was like, I need money to pay off my car. So yeah, it did not help. And they were like, alright, fine, we'll give you a third shift. And another thing that kind of got to me was they were always sending me home or knocking me off early, and I was like, this is getting ridiculous, and other stuff like that. And I tried to voice my opinion as much as I could, but obviously it fell on deaf ears. And then on the day that I left, I was feeling fine. I was like working and going through a lot, and I was kind of happy at the moment. But when they said, hey, you gotta knock off early, and I was like, no, that's it, I'm done. So drove home, collected all the uniform stuff, drove back and handed it in and said I quit. there seems to be a pattern here. Look, if this is making me look like the bad guy, you gotta understand, this is stuff that has led me down this path. Okay, so it's mostly not my doing, it's just how things turned out. Okay, so don't judge. So after I left Ribs and Rumps, I was like, maybe being a chef or cook or kitchen hand wasn't exactly my best trait. So I went back to cleaning, and I managed to land a cleaning position at my local shopping centre, which isn't too far. And the supervisor I met at the time was okay, but then all of a sudden I started to see her as someone that had a lot of dictatorship, and she didn't really care much about the actual job. Like, she even had her kids kind of cutting corners as well, and we eventually, or my area manager eventually stepped in and was like, you know what, I'm removing you, I'm getting you to resign and all that, and your kids can go too. And so enter in the new supervisor, and the new supervisor was like, right, we're not cutting corners anymore, we're going to get this done right, and we're going to get it right the very first few times, and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, cool, we're going in the right direction. And he was like, is there anyone that knows how to work the machinery? And I was like, yeah, I have some knowledge and all this, and yeah, so still at the time I had a car and everything, so I was still able to go to and from work, and yeah, basically drove to and from, and I started 7 PM and worked till about 3 AM, which wasn't too bad. There were a few reasons as to why we had to work those hours, but yeah, sorry, I just had a brain fart. Yeah, so was with that cleaning company for about 3.5 years, and I was also putting in time for holidays and whatnot, and the excuse they gave me when I wanted time off, they were like, oh, we don't have anyone to cover you. I was like, but you have other people covering someone else. Okay. Evidently I was like, fine, alright, whatever. And then I started to cop abuse and other stuff like that from the night supervisor, and it was not exactly fun. And of course I was being pushed and forced to constantly work hard, and eventually I was too tired to even think, and I accidentally ran into one of the stores. And then the next morning I'm called in and they're like, we saw the CCTV footage, we saw you run into a store, care to tell us your side of the story? And I said to him, look, I've been running myself ragged, I am tired, I cannot think straight, I needed time off. That's what I tried to do, and the area manager basically said, yeah, we don't have anyone to cover you. I was like, you're a multi-million-dollar company, you've got contracts in nearly every single shopping center there is, you should have staff. You should have someone that will be able to pick up a vac pack and vacuum carpet and other shit like that. No, unfortunately we can't do that. So I was like, whatever. Eventually they said, we're going to give you two alternatives. One, we fire you now, and it basically looks bad for you and blah blah blah. And the second option was you can quit and give 2 weeks notice and you'll work the last 2 weeks and blah blah blah. Again, still would make you look bad. I chose to quit because, yeah, I was not happy and it was starting to show on my face and everything, and yeah, so I left. Again, this is basically what happened to drive me to the point of quitting and everything, so yeah. I know a lot of businesses shit like that, but yeah. So after leaving the shopping center, I was like, you know what, maybe being a kitchen hand and all that wasn't too bad. Not all restaurants are going to be like that, but I decided to take up another course in hospitality, and then I landed a job at Casa Cibo. It's an Italian restaurant, so started working there, opened the restaurant, and yes, it was an actual restaurant, so had bells and whistles and you know what I mean. So we get in, we setting everything up, and the executive chef was kind of good at the start, but then all of a sudden he kind of started to sound like an angry chef, and from his point of view I can understand why, because I was doing some things that weren't exactly good at the time. I was on my phone doing something, but anyway, yeah, so I was with them for about a year, and I was constantly worked. Like, I had like a full shift, then a half shift, then a full, half, full, and it was taking a toll on my body. I was starting to slow down, I was starting to get tired and other stuff like that, and the executive chef pulls me aside the next day and he's like, your work is starting to slip, unfortunately I'm gonna have to let you go. Oh, okay. So I was fired. Not exactly the best way to be fired, because it was basically on them, not me. And I was like, whatever. And now we come to the shittiest job that I've ever done. Taxi driver. So after I was fired from Casachivo, I was like, you know what, I want to try something completely different. Let's be a taxi driver. Bear in mind, I have been through a lot of stuff that caused me to have a lot of anxiety and depression and a lot of mental health problems. Being a taxi driver just made it even worse. So that's probably why I've had a few mental breakdowns and other stuff like that. It's also been because of the abuse I've got from other people, but that's not why. But yeah, being a taxi driver, it seemed cool at first because I got to meet people, but at the same time it was the worst because quite a few reasons. One, waiting for an actual passenger. Oh my god. I would basically sit at one spot for about 3 hours. 3. And I was in a taxi for 12 hours. And the way you earn money is commission based. So the way that worked was whatever you made on the meter, a certain percentage would go to the actual owner of the taxi and the rest would go to me. So for me, I was on 50-50. So for example, if I made $400, I only make $200. Not much, right? Okay. So sitting there for 3 hours waiting for a fare. And to make matters even worse, sometimes some fares would be like, oh, could you just take me around the corner? Fuck. Yeah, it's just, oh no, could you take me? Bah. Fine. That's another reason, was we can't refuse any sort of service. We had to take whatever we could. Understandable, but that was like, oh god, I really don't want to take you around the corner, lady, fucking walk. Anyway, yeah, so we basically waited and waited, and I was like, nah, this isn't worth it. Because eventually I would get tired because there wasn't much I could do except sit there and wait, because you never know, the thing could go off and be like, hey, you need it at this hotel. Okay, great. Or passenger would come to the window and be like, "Are you free?" Yeah. Duh. I haven't moved yet, have I? And obviously hearing stories of people or taxi drivers getting long fares, and I'm like, I wonder when I'm gonna get mine. Sure enough, 2 months into the actual job, I ended up with a job from the international airport to Bundaberg. 4-hour trip. $820 for the actual customer. I was like, lady, you're fucking crazy. I don't care, I just want to get to Bundaberg. Okay. The only downside of that fare was, so I was driving a Brisbane-based taxi, and what that meant was we had like a boundary, and if we went past that boundary we couldn't take any other services. So I went past that boundary, and obviously no one's going to be crazy enough to want to be like, "Hey, are you going back to Brisbane? Could you take me?" Yeah, sure, that's about $800. Wait, what? I could do that cheaper on a train. I know. Hell, it'd be cheaper to fly. I know. What the hell are you doing here? And also, apparently it was also stealing from other taxi companies. So I was like, okay. Which makes sense. And, so basically spent 4 hours driving all the way back from Bundaberg. No fare. But yeah, the long waiting hours, the short fares, the customers. Cause, oh my god, I ended up with some weird ones. Like, sitting in one spot and dude gets in and he's like, "Alright driver, let's go." Doesn't tell me where he wants to go, and I look at him and I'm like, "Where do you want to go?" He doesn't say anything, he's too busy texting away, so I don't move the taxi. About a minute after he finished texting, he looks up and he's like, "Hey mate, why aren't we moving?" And I said to him, "Mate, you gotta tell me where you want to go. I'm not exactly psychic." And he goes, "Oh," and then gets out. I was baffled after him. I was like, "I'm going to the airport." So I left that spot and went to the airport. People are just weird. So now we come to the final job that I currently have right now, and it's the reject shop. Now, I'm not bagging it or anything. There is obviously some bad moments that I've had that have wanted to make me quit, but again, you got to take into consideration that I have been through so much job wise and everything, so it's not exactly a bad job. And I haven't left yet. If I have, I'll mention some. Well, I probably won't, but anyway, again, not saying anything bad about the reject shop. I'm thoroughly enjoying working for them. I've met quite a few interesting people, and some co-workers have been kind of fun to work with, and just trying to find my comfort zone with certain people. You know, I don't want to say something to them and offend them or upset them or anything like that. And at the same time, I don't exactly want to say anything bad about the company. But yeah, I'm always happy to come home and tell of stories of customers that I've had interactions with. And trust me, I get a few. You can ask my friend PS2. He'll be like, oh my fucking god. Hey, if you want to hear him, I'll put him on here and fucking go ham. Be like, customer stories, and you'd be like, oh god, here we go. But again, not bagging the reject shop. It's been a great experience. And again, co-workers have been fun to work with and all that. So, yeah, we're going on 9 months now, almost reaching a year. 1 year. Which will be in November this year, which is cool. I'm glad to be sticking it in for that long and finding what I'm comfortable with, because obviously when I'm there, my mentality is like, I don't want to be standing at the registers all this time. There's a cage right over there, fucking work on it, you know? Don't need to be told, just do it, done, and say, hey, I've done this, and they'd be like, cool, you know. And that's how my reputation with the reject shop has been. Obviously, it's kept them happy and all that. I haven't been pulled aside for any sort of problems or serious problems. Obviously, I am making some small mistakes, but nothing too serious to be fired over, you know. And at the same time, they're also giving me the comfort to know that if I am having a mental breakdown or anything like that, just give a heads up and be like, hey, if you are having an episode or anything like that, please feel free to let us know and we will cover you. And you can have the day off, which has happened. I've had a few mental breakdowns and I've been like, look, I can't come in. I need to get my head together and just basically sort myself out, which I've done. And again, I haven't quit or anything like that, and I have no intentions of quitting. I may eventually leave the reject shop for another job, maybe, I don't know. But I am being told that I do have to start looking for work in other places or try and get extra hours through the reject shop. Don't ask. So eventually I may be leaving. And like I said, that's not a bad thing. I understand the reject shop has a budget, and or the stores themselves have a budget that they gotta stick to, and I totally understand. I'm not saying what they do is a bad thing. It's just, yeah, it's what I've been told to do, you know. It's to keep the government happy. Quotations. Stop it. Don't mind me, I'm just being silly. But yeah, and with every other job, it's got its ups and downs. But obviously the downs aren't going to make me quit or anything like that, so that's pretty much it. We've basically reached the final job that I've got. Obviously I'm gonna probably have more in the future, we'll see. But yeah, I'm starting to think of what else I could talk about and share with you lot, and let you experience who I am and all that. And yeah, so again, thank you for being a subscriber. I really do appreciate it. I am also currently working on a few things for the channel. I am kind of thinking of adding something new, but I still got to figure out how to work it out. So bear with me. Obviously still going to do house flipper, motorbikes mechanic, car mechanic, hotel renovations, and yeah, I got it all over there. Also, I have merch, which is kind of obvious from hat, and got this yesterday. It's a cup with my logo. I do have a link in or connected to my profile for Fourth Wall. You can basically get merch there if you want to. You don't have to. It's another way to support me if you want. So yeah, feel free to have a look. I've chosen some interesting items, and I've tried to make them cheap as possible, but it might be a bit too expensive for you, which is understandable, and I totally get it. You'd be like, I don't want to spend this sort of money on that. Fair enough. I'm not going to twist your arm or anything like that. It's entirely up to you. So anyway, that's it. I'll see you next time where we'll talk about relationships.